is a crazy thing going on in California, but I repeat myself. If anything's going on in California, it's most likely crazy. Look, there is a bill called AB 379, which has a provision in it that libs intentionally took out. What is the provision? Well, let me set this up first. Currently, the law in California is such that if anyone solicits prostitution of anyone under the age of 16, it is a misdemeanor or felony. In other words, it is a pretty big punishment. Now, I use finger quotes to say prostitution because in California, the age of consent is 18. So if you're under 18, well, you don't get to consent, and therefore it's not prostitution, it's sex slavery. We'll just call it what it is. So that aside, the current law says, okay, well, it's a felony if they're under 16 and you attempt to purchase them for sex, which again is horrible and we want to get rid of. That goes without saying. However, in this bill, there was a provision that said, okay, we're going to include 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds because currently the law is under 16. And that seems thoroughly reasonable. So reasonable so that Gavin Newsom, the far left lib Democrat governor of California, said, yeah, it's probably a pretty good idea. Now, instead of just pass this law, the California legislature, the assembly said, absolutely not. We're not going to put this into law, and actively took it out. In other words, it wasn't something that like had this kind of slipped under the rug. We didn't really notice it's 16. It was in the bill to say, hey, we're going to include 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds in this because, again, they can't consent. They can't be legal prostitution workers. Even if you agree whether or not that should be legal, I don't, but that's beside the point. If you're under the age of 18, you cannot consent, and therefore it's not okay. This bill had that in there, and Democrats actively took it out. Why? Because California is where sanity goes to die. That's the only reason I think anybody could actually give.